Before it was home to Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine was once home to some 1,800 families, many of them Mexican-American. Those families displaced in the 1950s to make way for an affordable housing project that never panned out. Last month, California Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo, she introduced Assembly Bill 1950, formerly known as the Chavez Ravine Accountability Act. It seeks to provide reparations for the families of those displaced from their homes in the 1950s and 60s. Wendy Carrillo represents Los Angeles in the State Assembly, and she joins me now with more on her proposed legislation. Assemblymember Carrillo, thanks so much for being with us tonight. This is an important topic. I know you know that. Let's get to it. For those who aren't really familiar, though, what happened? Take us back. What happened in Chavez Ravine?
Oh, it's an incredible story of just one of the biggest issues that we're facing now, which is housing. So between 1951 and 1959, the three communities of Bishop, Palo Verde, La Loma, otherwise known as Chavez Ravine, more commonly in today's time, were unjustly evicted. The families there were unjustly evicted. There was a promise for social housing that was never fulfilled by the city of Los Angeles, and more than 1,800 families were displaced. There was eminent domain used to remove them and unjustly evict them, robbing them of their family homes, as well as generational wealth through home ownership. And so decades later, we are introducing a policy that we have been working on for quite some time that will create the foundation to really tell the story of what happened to these three communities and the many families that were unjustly removed.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about AB 1950. Your legislation calls for, number one, historical accountability, a reparative measure, and a permanent memorial. We can all understand what a permanent memorial looks like, but as it relates to reparative measures, historical accountability, what does that really look like? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Well, one of the foundational pieces of AB 1950, the Chavez Ravine Accountability Act, is to establish a 9-person task force, which will build the foundation in which compensation can potentially be established within the city of Los Angeles, which can include land within the city to give to the families and their descendants, or market rate compensation for the land that they lost. Secondly, a database of all the families impacted, as well as a historical account as to what happened in these three communities. And lastly, a memorial in the community of what is now Elysian Park, where there is already a small monument that was started by Luz Santillan, whose family was also displaced, called Los Desterrados, which means the displaced. We want to build on the efforts that community members have already began for many years, but now through a state project, a state policy in collaboration with the city of Los Angeles.
Have you worked out any numbers in terms of, I know you said market value. Have you worked out any of those numbers on what we're talking about when it relates to physically giving money to descendants? And then how many descendants have you actually tracked down, and how many do you know are still alive?
We are in the process of those conversations, which is why the 9-person task force is fundamental to this project. The task force itself will be responsible in creating the pathway forward, the foundation needed to think about what does that compensation actually look like. This is the beginning process of a fight and hurt and trauma and a lot of just feelings towards what happened in these three communities, but really giving the community members themselves an opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and for the city to acknowledge this very dark era within the city of Los Angeles of a promise of housing that was never fulfilled. So we are just getting started.
We have seen a lot of heated rhetoric around reparations for Black Californians. How is this different than that? Because I know that hasn't been decided yet. And do you think you have the votes, the support in Sacramento to get this passed?
I definitely feel we have the support and momentum to get AB 1950 to the governor's desk, especially when it comes to talking about so many issues related to unjust housing policies of the past and what it means in today's times. But I think the issues related to reparations for the Black community as well as AB 1950 go hand in hand. It's really about showing a solidarity movement of what happened with unjust laws and really the separation and displacement of families across the state of California, and really thinking about what it means to Native Americans and Native Californians and indigenous people, Mexican Americans in Chavez Ravine, as well as communities across the state that have been impacted by policies that have been unjust towards communities of color.
Well, you know, there are a lot of Dodgers fans who I'm sure are watching tonight. Regardless, we want to make it clear that the Dodgers had nothing to do with this. They moved into Chavez Ravine well after this all happened. Okay, well, we will keep a watch on Assembly Bill 1950. Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo, we thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for being interested.